There is such an amazing tribe, the Chuvash. And this tribe has an equally amazing state, Chuvashia. According to the calculations of the United Nations, and not only, the rate of grain consumption per person is 1 ton of grain per year. This ton includes not only the grain itself, but also livestock products, which is calculated in grain equivalent, how much grain per year need to spend to get a consumption rate, for example, milk and dairy products per year, having this as the corresponding number of cattle that will eat this grain. According to official statistics, 1,167,061 people live in an amazing state. At the rate of 1 ton per capita per year, there is a need for 1,167,061 tons of grain per year, so that the amazing Chuvash tribe eats according to nutritional standards without malnutrition. And how much land will it take to grow the coveted 1,167,061 tons per year? With a yield of 3 tons per hectare, this should be at least 389,000 hectares for grain or 3,890 square kilometers. The total area of Chuvashia is 18,343 square kilometers. To meet the need for proper nutrition, so that teeth do not fall out, it is necessary to sow only 1/5 of the area of the amazing state, and then the Chuvash will be able to eat properly and to full. They will not breed, for this they need to sow even more hectares, because children also need to be fed something, but they will also stop dying out, as well as stop getting fat, they will get sick less, live longer, and much more. And now it's time to open the news and find out that in amazing Chuvashia in 2024 more than 780,000 tons of grain were harvested at a minimum rate of 1,167,061 tons of grain for the reproduction of the population. This means that at least 350,000 prisoners of Chuvashia are superfluous, there is nothing to feed them. They must urgently learn Russian in order to leave Chuvashia and not die of malnutrition. Or the available 780,000 tons will be smeared on everyone as in the besieged Leningrad, and everyone will be malnourished. The Chuvash have no questions to their elites, where is the grain, because assimilation is an inevitable process, all peoples, it turns out, merge into a single mass. This will strengthen the Russian ethnic group with gentlemen who do not know how to farm and feed themselves. A great gift, the Russians just don't have enough such gentlemen in their composition, here we are, feed us. And this is despite the fact that 2/3 of the area of the unique Chuvashia is 12,228 square kilometers, 1,222,800 hectares, which, with a yield of 3 tons per hectare, is equivalent to 3.76 million tons of grain, and at a rate of 1 ton per capita is equivalent to 3.76 million Chuvash against today's 1.17 million Chuvash. There are also no questions to their elites, where 2.5 million more Chuvash have gone, they left to work and did not return. Amazing Chuvash have been living next to Russians for several centuries, they speak Russian, but they still do not understand that the population is proportional to the hectares in circulation and the amount of grain grown. They even don't understand why exactly a ton that animals and fish eat grain, because everything is in the shops, which means that there is an abundance that will be enough for everyone. Very smart Chuvash cannot connect the price of goods in a store in their head, which are cut off extra people, because there is not enough food, and a shortage of at least 350,000 tons of grain, which is not enough. We can also find out from amazing Chuvash that material well-being leads to a decrease in the birth rate, people get mad with fat and do not have children, rich countries are an example. It turns out that the Chuvash do not breed and leave rich Chuvashia, this is from well-being and fat. So the newspapers are lying when write that the Chuvash are a deeply poor and dysfunctional nation. If they were poor and dysfunctional, they would breed like cockroaches. But in fact, they are a developed nation with electricity consumption in the area slightly above 4 megawatt-hours per capita, that is, manual labor prevails, not machine labor. And we can also find out from the amazing Chuvash that the Chuvash are fleeing in packs from this paradise, because the selection in favor of the federal center of all, who represent themselves. That is, it's not with the hands of the Chuvash that something is firmly wrong, not with the thinking, not the elite of the Chuvash is some kind of substance, but the Russians are to blame for everything. Leave to work as a shift anywhere to earn at least something and eat, it's also the Russians' fault. And Jews with cyclists. And the British are shitting. Then why do need Chuvash nation? Why do they need land if they can't feed themselves from it, and agriculture is a cargo cult like the Russians? Why do they need amazing Chuvashia and statehood if they cannot use power and the state machine to accumulate and invest in agriculture? What is difficult about plowing only 400,000 hectares for grain, but the Chuvash still do not understand why they should plow 400,000 hectares? Because they do not see cause and effect relationship between 750,000 tons of grain and depopulation with poverty. They do not see cause and effect relationships between 750,000 tons of grain and the price of the product. The reasoning of the amazing Chuvash nation ends with what they are owed. Someone has to come and solve their problems, plow and feed. If the Chuvash are unable to plow only 400,000 hectares to eat their fill, then anyone is to blame for this, but not the Chuvash themselves. Let's say that these are the proud descendants of the Bulgars, who were also excellent merchants. Fine, then let's see what's going on with the feed. Everything is already clear. With the current population size, 1.2 million tons of grain are needed. With the plowing of 2/3 of the area of this fabulous state-owned enterprise and yields of 3.7 million tons, 2.5 million tons will remain superfluous. This surplus can be sold. With the cost of 1 ton of about 15,000 rubles per ton, 2.5 million tons can generate 37.5 billion rubles of income for the benefit of the state per year, or 32,000 rubles of income per Chuvash per year, which the enchanting descendants of the Bulgarian merchants are not earning now, and can't even feed themselves. With that kind of money, can buy power plants, entire industries, and industrialize rapidly. For some reason, the Russians built a tractor plant for the amazing Chuvash, but not for that the amazing Chuvash would saturate their agriculture with tractors to harvest 3.7 million tons of grain, which the Chuvash couldn't handle anyway, and not for that the Chuvash would trade tractors. Because the Chuvash do not understand why tractors are needed in agriculture. Is this to plow 1.2 million hectares with minimal labor? And why plow 1.2 million hectares? What for? Why do need 37.5 billion rubles a year if there are endless raids on Moscow in the Tatar-Mongolian style? Vile Russians, who are to blame for everything, give money, give grain to feed, otherwise we are dying out. Maybe the enchanting Chuvash are just not friends with grain? It's okay, after all food products can be bought, especially if don't bother with their quality, because it's terrible and guaranteed to kill metabolism in a miserable 10 years, but then need to sell something. Fine, let's plant all 1.2 million hectares of currants instead of grain and turn amazing Chuvashia into a mega plantation, earn and buy food, so that 1.2 million prisoners of Chuvashia do not die of hunger and do not run away from the unique and prosperous state of Chuvashia in horror anywhere. The average yield of currants is 10 tons per hectare. From 1.2 million hectares it will be 12.2 million tons of currants. At a cost of 100,000 rubles per ton it is 1.22 trillion rubles a year. The same trillion rubles is worth a nuclear power plant, which no one will ever build for the Chuvash. This is 1 million rubles of income from one amazing Chuvash per year, which the enchanting Chuvash beg from the Russians, although they can be earned without begging. Don't run around looking for an investor who will come and build, but build it on own. Can't earn that much on grain. However, even on grain and much less money, anyone earns, but not the Chuvash. Although, why don't earn money? The pride of the Chuvash elite is precisely the export of grain and products, which are not enough for 350,000 Chuvash without export. Will not eat enough, but will take it out, and let the extra Chuvash learn Russian and go to work as a shift. Chuvash, and not only them, sincerely believe that they are doing a great service to Russians by throwing, like a cuckoo, their fellow tribesmen, who cannot be fed, into the Russian ethnic group, thereby enriching its gene pool and intellectually. A low bow for this. It's time to open up the news again and find out that it's sad. In 2022, under the conditions of sanctions, the structure of importing countries has partially changed. Hops and hop products were supplied from Latvia, the Netherlands, Estonia, Serbia, Austria and Hong Kong. Imports from Turkey, China, Lithuania, Poland, Belgium and the Czech Republic increased. But there are Chuvash, who grow hops. Here is a chance for the enchanting Chuvash, which happens only once in 1,000 years. Prices per ton of unbroken hop cones are distributed from $3,800 to $30,500. This is a corridor from 3,800,000 to 30,500,000 rubles. Let's focus on the minimum figure of 3.5 million rubles per ton. The volume of hop trade in the world is about 30 million tons, and demand is growing. With a yield of 1 ton per hectare and a land fund of 1.2 million hectares, this is 1.2 million tons of hops or 4.28 trillion rubles minimum, or 3.7 million rubles of income per hardworking Chuvash per year. Roman slaves did not bring such income. It's tempting, but we read the news further, and it's even sadder. MBB Group has announced its intention to grow hops in the Voronezh region. It is planned to produce up to 2.3 thousand tons per 1.28 thousand hectares. But what about the hungry Chuvash? The agro-holding Ugrainris intends to plant up to 1,000 hectares of this crop in the Kuban. After the launch of the first stage of the project, the volume of hop production may amount to 400 tons. The holding company BAZRK Belgrankorm announced a project in the Lipetsk region, also for 400 tons of harvest per year. Fine, but where are the Chuvash in the news? According to the Ministry of Agriculture of Chuvashia, in 2023, the gross hop harvest in the state amounted to a fantastic 192 tons. The area of hops hanging reached a solid 133 hectares, a serious achievement. Why, with such shameful volumes, do hops at all, if the world's trade turnover of hops is 30 million tons? Voronezh, Kuban, Lipetsk, etc., and all this is past the amazing Chuvashia and the equally amazing Chuvash. No one wanted to build a strategic business for hardworking Chuvash with a yield of 4.28 trillion. Why does anyone earn money from hops in Russia, but not hardworking Chuvash? What have hardworking Chuvash nation been doing for the last 30 years of democracy and free market? For the last 30 years they have been searching for their roots, talking about Bulgars, etc. Time has given the answer that no, not descendants. And time is money. The enchanting Chuvash wasted a lot of time on fruitless conversations and holidays, and lost a lot of money, which someone else will now earn. At this point, it is already possible to say for sure that hardworking Chuvash will never be a successful nation. Begging for money, looking for an investor, raiding economy, gathering, etc., this is the ceiling of entrepreneurial activity of amazing Chuvash, as it was several centuries ago. And some more sad news. In order to sow 1.2 million hectares and earn at least 4.28 trillion rubles, the Chuvash will need at least 10 years and at least 1 trillion rubles of investments. At the same time, in 5 years the market will be occupied by MBB Group and others. There will be residents of Lipetsk, Voronezh, Kuban, and not enchanting Chuvash. Is it clear now why time is money? But single-mindedness, striving for material well-being, perseverance, and so on are not included in the national character of the amazing Chuvash. Better a shift. The sad news doesn't end there. Hops are a mild sedative, which is slightly inferior in activity to valerian. Among the medicines containing hops are valocordin, valocedin, novo, posset, corvaldin, sedivit, urolithin, and so on. Hops are part of a large number of biologically active additives. How is the strategic pharmaceutical business of hops in amazing Chuvashia? Is it thriving? How much do Chuvash earn on this? And why are amazing Chuvash needed then? To tell about hard work? And where is it? Where is the result of hard work in tons and rubles? For what the Chuvash need land? For what need the amazing state Chuvashia? Some kind of suitcase without a handle. There is no point in counting how much the Chuvash could earn in pharmaceuticals, because not how much, these are Chuvash.